Welcome back to another episode of the Tiga Tactics podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Evan Perperis. I'm joined on the line by founders Patrick Vuong and Conrad Bui. Patrick, say hi.
Hi, guys.
And Conrad, say hi.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so this is going to be one of our topic-focused episodes. So we're focusing specifically on the um, pyramid of self-protection. Did I mess that up?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, so we're going to be focused on the pyramid of personal protection, and this is honestly the model that I've used for doing almost everything, and excited to deep dive into it today. So we're going to start off. I'm going to send it over to whichever one of you wants to start. Just tell people what the pyramid of self-protection is, and we will go from there and kind of deep dive into why you guys chose this model, the benefits from it, crossover applications, etc.
Sure. I'll start first. This is Patrick. Think of, it's kind of hard to visualize this on a podcast, but if people can think of a pyramid, but it's inverted, so it's upside down, and the biggest part is on top, the widest part is on top, and then it gets narrow as you get to the bottom. On top is a mindset, and it consumes the biggest part of the pyramid because mindset is ultimately what will keep you safe. And then in the middle, a slightly smaller portion where the pyramid starts to narrow in, that's skill set. That's all your techniques, all your training, all the things you can do physically. And then the point at the bottom takes up the smallest amount of space or volume. That's tool set. And so I like to think of it as an inverted pyramid with mindset being the most important part. And I think Conrad can kind of explain it in a much more interesting way, but just visualize that inverted pyramid as we go through this discussion. So
Gotcha. Conrad, yeah, jump in.
Yeah, I think we like to present things in threes. That's what Tiga Tactics stands for. Tiga means three in Indonesian. And it's easy to remember things in three, and also when we categorize things in threes, it's easy for our mind to kind of assimilate that because it's just simple for three things. And what Patrick was saying, we have mindset at the top, skill set in the middle, and tool set at the very bottom of that inverted pyramid that he was talking about. And sometimes I think we get so impressed and so hypnotized and by the bottom two, which is the skill set and the tool set, and some people are really fixated on the tool set. They just want the coolest firearms, they want the coolest knife, they want the coolest flashlight. They're all kitted out really well, and yet their skill set might be lacking, and then of course if your skill set's lacking, your mindset's going to be lacking as well too. And same thing for the second tier, the skill set. Some people really like that as well too. All the flashiness, the Instagram, the TikTok stuff. That's cool too. But when we're talking about self-protection, personal defense, or even just living a productive life, that mindset is going to be the biggest part of our training. That's going to be the biggest part of our focus, and that is what carries along your skill set and tool set as well too, by having that mindset. So just really quick to talk about that mindset. What's that saying? Is not the size of the dog in the fight, it's size of the fight in the dog. And so that's where that skill set resides. I mean, that mindset resides right there. And so that's that reverse pyramid there.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, 100% agree. I love that concept. I'll have some more comments on it later. Before I get to that, though, how did you come up with it? Was it you just kind of sat there and thought about it, or was it like something you developed over time through your personal experiences, training in martial arts and competing, etc.? Tell me a little bit about the origin of this pyramid of self-protection mindset, skill set, tool set.
Patrick, you want to go first?
Yeah. So for those of you who are not aware of Tiga Tactics and our individual origins, Connor and I are cousins, but we've done training separately because we've always lived in different cities, and martial artists all our lives. And around 2008, I started teaching women's self defense, and I didn't quite name it mindset, skill set, tool set, but I had the idea of the pyramid of self protection or personal protection, and I always knew that the mindset, the internal warrior was always the most important part, because I knew that, again, I'm not trying to sound sexist or get into some sort of political debate, but when you're teaching women's self-defense, the majority of your students are going to be they're learning women's self-defense because they've probably never done martial arts before, they've probably never done combat sports before, so they have very little experience. And so to try to get them to become warrior ready within an hour or even 1 day or even 2 day workshop, that's almost impossible, right? So I had to think of another way to teach them to get them ready without having to make them masters of the jab cross hook or the palm strike or the knee or the elbow. And so I realized, if I focus on the mindset and making them live a more prepared lifestyle, that was like the best way to go about it. And so I made that a huge emphasis, and that's where the inverted pyramid came from. But again, I didn't quite call it mindset at that time. That was just more for like my visual representation of how I would interpret things and teach it to them. But then once we kind of came together and created Tiga Tactics, Conrad came in with the 3 sets, understanding that it basically breaks down to mindset, skill set, and tool set. So Conrad, did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I just thought that was cool to say, but it just sounds cool to say mindset, skill set, tool set. It makes you sound like the authority. But also, I do have to give it up. There was a magazine called Skill Set, and so I was like, oh, that's a cool word. I don't think they're around anymore. But and then it just led into tool set, mindset. I wanted something that we could have a 360-degree view on a complete system, whether that's self-defense or a system of how to live our life. And yeah, if we can approach it from the mindset, oh man, that mindset is huge. I mean, the knowledge that you need. That's just a huge big of it. That big part of everything is the knowledge, the attitude that we want to bring into our endeavor, whether that's self-defense or trying to build a business or being a good father, or family member. The attitude that we bring into it. All those what businesses nowadays are calling soft skills, like communication skills. What's the new stuff? The sensitivity skills. Those soft skills that businesses are called. That all falls underneath mindset. Mindset is such a huge category. Mindset might be, if there's some nerds out there that know something about neuro-linguistic programming, Tony Robbins fans out there, that's a lot of mindset training there, as well as certain religious training. We're not a religious organization, but if there's a tool that we can borrow from a certain religion to make our life better, whether that's in self-defense or that's in daily living, we'll borrow that as well too and put that into our mindset training. And so mindset, again, I think people do talk about it, especially if you're in a self-defense class. There's going to be discussion about situational awareness. There's going to be discussion about the OODA loop. There's going to be discussion about the color codes of awareness. There's going to be those discussions, and so I think a lot of people have these categories in mind. It's just that by putting it into these 3: mindset, skill set, tool set, it's just easy to categorize. And again, mindset is just such a huge topic that we can go over and over again. But still, a skill set, huge importance if you have to use your skills to defend yourself. And skill set can also mean training communication skills as well too. So it's not just approaching it from a combative viewpoint, we can approach it from a business viewpoint as well too. And then of course, tool set, again, that's all the glittery stuff people love to focus on. And the knife or the flashlight or the firearm, what kind of red dot are you carrying, what kind of
Yeah.
ammo are you using, all that stuff. What kind of trigger do you have on there, how many pounds before it breaks, whatever. A lot of people get so focused on that we forget that that's the end product. That's way down the line here. In other words, if you're looking at a tree and the root of the tree is the important part of the tree that keeps it alive, and the trunk, you're way out in the far branches right there looking at that stuff. And so it's very important that no matter what we're approaching, whether that's spirituality or a business or a goal or combatives and self-defense or martial arts, that we take a look at the mindset of all of that, and then how does that apply into our training, i.e. our skill set training. And then finally, if you have tools that you can use, how does that apply to the tools as well too? So that's kind of the approach that we recommend. And so that's kind of how it fits into everything.
Yeah, no, great input. I love, so the first time I realized that mindset was super important was, I think, so it's a couple stories. One, I remember getting a t-shirt from my dad on Christmas one year, and it said, like, U.S. Army, like the soldier is the best, the soldier's brain is the best weapon. It was a phrase like that or something. And I remember at the time being like, that's not true. We got like smart bombs and we got all sorts of crazy stuff. And I remember just like not buying into it and being like, well, whatever. It's a cool shirt. I appreciate it for my dad. Whatever. I wore it for a couple of years. Fast forward, it's like 2003. I met the one of the special forces team that was in Afghanistan that actually had an American bomb drop near them, and they had sustained some casualties. And they'd come back, and they were like, this is right after the invasion of Afghanistan, pretty soon after. And I remember one of the other students that met the team was asking them about like nuances of what generation night vision goggles they used. And the special forces guys were like, I don't know, man. It's like whatever the government gave me. Like, he just seemed very unconcerned with the tool set. And that was like another crack. And then the final kind of shattering where I realized how important, mindset and skill set was it's in special forces. There's special operations forces have 5 soft truths. And one of them, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. One of them is humans are more important than hardware. And essentially meaning that you are the weapon. And, when I started going through special forces training and selection, and we just spend so much time focused on the mindset and the skill set portion, and so little time focused on like, well, this is the M4, but this one has a gas pit. Like, no, we don't worry about like what upper we have and the length of the barrel and like, get the basics down first, make sure all that stuff is perfect or as close to perfect as we can get it. And then you add on like the fine details like weapons and platforms on top of that. But if your basics of like communication, fire, maneuver, and the will to fight isn't there, you're not going to be able to do any of the missions downrange. And I think that carries over not only the military side, but also on like, again, I'm a runner, ultra runner type guy, ultra obstacle course racer, and I see it all the time, not only in my business but also in the other athletes, right? So on my website, I sell leg mitts. They're neoprene mittens that keep your hands warm. I also sell books that I have developed through. I've literally spent over a month of my life running obstacle course races, and the amount of people that buy mittens over books is astronomical. I mean, people are just like, I want the gloves that'll keep my hands warm. And I was like, don't you want the 250-page manual that teaches your mind how to be a better athlete and gives you training plans? And they're like, no, I want warm hands with neoprene mittens. Like, you really should buy the book. And like, I make more money on like it benefits me more if you buy the gloves, hands down. Like, I make the book profits are not good, but it would benefit the people more if they bought the book, because you're going to get some of that mindset, and mindset will take you further, right? Because mindset will make you get up and train even when you don't want to. It'll give you discipline to train.
Mhm.
It'll make your skill set improve, which will make your mindset improve, which will make your skill set improve, which will make it turns into like a cycle going back and forth.
Right.
And then
Right.
again, I sprinkle the tool set on top of it at the end.
Right.
So I just see it so much in my other pursuits. And it applies for literally anything, any hobby, any sort of skill you want to acquire in life.
Yeah. Let me segue into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I remember when I first started, and I still see this amongst the white belts and blue belts. Who's got the coolest soyo roll gi? Who's got the coolest gi? And it was all these white belts and blue belts, like kind of showing off their cool gis and everything. And the black belts, they just got this old gi from Brazil, and it's like falling apart, and they're like,
Yeah.
whatever, It's what can we say? As human beings, I think we like shiny objects.
Oh, we do so much.
That's so funny, Evan. Like, yeah, I've had the privilege and the honor to meet several special operation forces soldiers, and all, to the man, you guys are all so impressive, and it's not because of your physique or because of how awesome you shoot. It always comes down to how much you can withstand mentally. It always blows my mind, because I've met, some guys are 6'2" and they look like, a high school all-star, and some people are smaller and some people are shorter, some people are, random sizes, right? But the thing that unifies all of you is that mindset. And it literally, to the man, you all have that same type of shared understanding how important mindset is.
Yeah. We not only select for it, right? So the selection process, which we'll get into on a different episode, a couple weeks long, you're asked to move things that are impossibly heavy for seemingly impossible distances. Like if I had not physically been there and done them by my with the group of guys, I would be like, no, those weights are too heavy. People can't do that. That's too far. Right. So they constantly put you in these situations they feel hopeless at the start, and then you just suffer all day and you eventually make it to the finish line. You're like, oh, well, I guess that was possible. Right. So we're not only selecting for that, but then you take, and I'm sure you guys see it at the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym and some of the other training experiences you've had, but you take a group of people like that and you just plop them in one place and you let them feed off each other. And again, it turns into a cycle where it's like, oh, well, I can't, I can't look bad in front of my boys, right? So you're like, okay, well, I'll just suck this up because, you're kind of expected to perform at the same level, and it becomes a self-feeding cycle. So we select for it, and then I think being surrounded by those types of people enhances it even further, which again plays right back into the mindset skill set cycle of just like kind of building upon each other. So
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah. I will say something about the tool set, right? I know we're going to get into some episodes later where we talk about knives. I'm a huge knife collector. I love them. I made, because of your mindset skill set pyramid, I made a personal rule for myself, right? Where I don't allow myself to buy a new knife unless I take another level or do something that involves improving my mindset or skill set for blade work.
Oh, cool.
So that's like a personal rule. That's like a personal rule I created because every time a new knife website pops up on my social media feed, I'm like, ooh, this looks like a nice shiny object I need in my house. So that a lot of times, like I'll buy a knife and be like, oh, but I also buy this training course that goes along with it and this trainer. So I know I have to practice to actually improve those skill sets and stuff like that. Or make sure I have to like read a couple books before I pick up a new blade. That's my own personal rule.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good because my wife is like, "Do you really need another knife?" Yes, I do.
Yeah, I feel that. Luckily, my wife also likes knives, not quite as much as I do. But if you my biography, I have a story where the first night I met her, we were in college, and she was carrying a Benchmade, and I was carrying some like cult piece of garbage, like $30 folder, and so I was like, this woman has a nicer knife than I do. I was like, I think I need to marry her. I think that's a sign. I think that's a sign that I found the person I'm looking for. So
absolutely.
That's awesome.
So far so good. So any other thoughts on the development, building of the mindset, skill set, tool set pyramid there?
No, I think, of course, if if you're a soldier or law enforcement and that tool set means life or death, get the best you can. Absolutely. Get the
Yeah.
best you can, as well as the best training, the right attitude, the right approach to everything. You want it all. You want it all 360 degrees of it. So, and it's just a good way to double check yourself, like what you're doing. Okay, I'm buying another knife. Maybe I should learn a new knife drill or something to earn this knife or whatever like that. So it's just another good way to check yourself. And also, I think sometimes we forget about the mindset uh, training. Like, oh, okay, well, I have some skill set, I have some tool set. How do I train mindset? Maybe we'll get into this on a different podcast. We have ways and games on how to train mindset and how to approach learning as well too. So that I think Musashi said it best. He said, when you understand the way broadly, you will see it in everything, which means that if this is a certain amount of truth here, well, then it should apply to many different subjects and not just martial arts. And so if you truly understand the mindset, the approach to it, you can use these same strategies and tactics, trying to build a good family, trying to build a business, trying to reach your goals, trying to achieve old age with health, good health.
Hmm.
And of course, supplement, being able to apply this into a self-defense or martial arts style, or a combative system. It should be kind of universal, and we kind of approach it like that as well too.
Yeah, I was actually working on something for Tiga Tactics today, where I link a lot of self-defense stuff related to athletes and runners. And as I was thinking through like the mindset, skill set, tool set, I was like, oh, this is right up a runner's lane, right? Like the importance of mindset in racing is just so huge. And like I mentioned earlier, it also is the discipline that gives you the ability to continue to train. The skill set's like your ability to run. And then the tool set is like the nice new pair of shoes or like, new pair
Mm-hmm.
of expensive shorts, right? Like if I take the fastest guy in the cross country team and give him like a mediocre pair of shorts from Walmart and a pair of shoes from Walmart, he's still going to be the fastest dude. He's just not going to look
Yeah.
as cool, right? And
Yes.
and honestly, like the more I thought about it, the more I was like, honestly, like when people go expensive on the tool set, it's actually, in my opinion, it's actually feeding into the mindset more, right? Because you have this nice, whatever it be, nice gi, nice shoes or whatever. It makes you feel better, which essentially improves your mindset, which makes you, which makes you work harder, right? So
Mhm.
even the tool set itself, I think the product itself is not doing much of a difference, but the biggest thing that's happening is like you're putting more emphasis on your mindset and you just don't realize it. So
Right.
just my 2 cents. With the military, we teach some modern army combatives. That's our fighting style in the military, and we don't have a lot of time to train people. Kind of like Tiga Tactics, right? It's a lot of it's information presented in a quick format that you can use. We're doing the same thing with the military when we like our basic course is 1 week. So we have you for 40 hours, Monday through Friday, and we got to teach you everything from essentially like grappling over weapons through blade work, through grappling, through takedowns, and all this stuff. We have to teach an insane amount of information in 40 hours. And some of these people, most of them, don't train outside. And when I started like looking at the way we teach, we honestly spend almost all of our time building people's mindset and then a little bit on skill set. And that's where we kind of put our emphasis. And we don't even talk about weapon selection and weapon styles and sights and stuff like that in the week-long basic combatives course. We just focus on mindset, skill set, to help build that initial base, in order to bring them to the next level and continue training and kind of expand upon their lethality. So I've just seen it.
Yeah.
I've just seen it apply in all sorts of, like the more I think about it, the more I see it in other places. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you hear about it in the shooting world as well too. Like somebody who can shoot well. You can throw them a stock Glock 19 and they'll just outshoot everybody. It doesn't matter what you throw in their hand because of their mindset and skill set. They can use just about anything they need to.
Yeah. Although the fancy toys are always nice.
Yes, definitely. And if you can afford it, go and get it. Nothing wrong with that either.
All right. Any final thoughts, Patrick?
Yeah, I would just a quick thing that I say a lot to our Tiga Tactics students, and I use that as an example of people I run into all the time. I used to be an editor at Recoil magazine, which is a gun lifestyle magazine, and they'd find out I do martial arts, and they're like, "Oh, that's a waste of time," because if a bad guy attacks me, I'll just shoot him. It's like, oh, okay, that's cool. How many guns do you have? Oh, I have like 12 guns. I was like, okay, cool. How much time do you spend training? And then, I asked them more questions, and it turns out like they go to the range maybe like once a year. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
great. So you've got 12 guns in your house. You train once a year. How likely are you going to be able to get that gun, recognize it as a threat, get that gun in time, aim, fire accurately, still be alive while that guy's shooting at you or stabbing you or punching you or running you over with a car, and so that to me is a classic example of people who have tool set and a false sense of security that tool set brings. And so that's why we represent the pyramid of personal protection, to emphasize that you got to have that mindset, and that mindset should allow you to do tons and tons of training. And then when it's affordable, then you get the really cool tool set. But if not, you get what's best for you at that moment. But really, it's the mindset that allows you to develop the skill set that saves your life, not so much the tool set. Because we've seen plenty of examples of people who have horrible tool set, just a random stick, or just like, just they're using their fists. They didn't know what they're doing, but because they had that mindset, that will to fight, the will to survive, they were able to fend off or beat a bad guy because they had that mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you listening, the Tiga Tactics full suite of online courses is available to improve your mindset and your skill set. So, and then speaking of that, being able to actually employ your weapon, right? From the research you guys have done, most of the attacks are occurring essentially within, very extreme close distance, right? So if you don't have the basic skills to some basic strikes to create that space in order for you to take out your weapon, you're not even gonna have a chance to use it, right? Because the attack's an ambush. It's coming at you from extremely close range. So.
Yeah, the far vast majority of attacks that we've watched it through, real life footage, surveillance footage, CCTV footage, most attacks come within 6 feet. And if you equate distance and time, 6 feet gives you maybe a second at the most to react. And even the fastest competitive shooters, with amazing speed, 1 second is a pretty tight time frame to create space, draw your weapon, aim, and fire.
Conrad, any final thoughts before we get going?
No, just thank you for the opportunity. And if you've listened this long, thanks for hanging out with us.
All right. We will catch all you guys later. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, bye.